Scarlet Knights fans, Rutgers is 2-0 after beating another really good MAC team, Miami of Ohio, 45-17. The story of the game is not really told in the final score, though, as all of us who watch the game diligently know. Still some things to discuss here, but going away in the fourth quarter, Rutgers did seal the deal decisively, 45-17. It was a show of offensive fireworks, a show of a monsoon coming down and lightning in the area, causing a 1 hour delay. I have to tell you, it was funny. I tailgated all day. And I'm in the blue lot where, our AD likes to enjoy her pork roll, egg, and cheese. Taylor ham, egg, and cheese. I'm not going to pick a side right now. I grew up in pork roll country, and I've been domiciled in Taylor ham country for quite some time. So I'm not going to weigh in on that. Safe to say, though, that's where I tailgate. Our host, Chris, had tacos and stuff. It was an awesome time, but it was hot out, man. I prefer the fall weather, the crisp breeze and all of that. I got a little complacent and a little used to it the last few weeks. And last week's game come out this week, and it's really, really hot. And then, we knew all along, based on weather reports, that the storms were going to come in and they were probably going to hit right around kickoff. And it was interesting because, we just by happenstance, we decided to head in, like 2:45. And we start heading in, go through the boardwalk and everything. And one buddy of mine had to turn around and grab something. So we go up, we scan in, and as soon as I swear, as soon as I got in to the concourse there, it just started pouring. There's rain everywhere, flying in and out, just real crazy. If you walked across where, the concourse was open to the stadium, the wind and rain would just fly in. So we had a 1 hour rain delay, which was kind of interesting. They didn't say anything at first. And then finally they announced, the game's going to kick off at 4:30. Sun came back out a little bit of rain, throughout the game. And then the rain really didn't start coming down seriously again until the very end of the fourth quarter, really on the drive home. So we lucked out in that regard, but it was a long day out there. Let's get into the actual game now. And by the way, for subscribers, those of you who want to sponsor the channel, not subscribers, by the way, subscribe, click like. But for those of you who join the channel as official Night Watch sponsors, the join button's right here. I actually have a video of that rain when I was standing in the concourse. So there's other things coming for people who officially join. So think about click and join. You can see that. But on to the game, right? So first of all, let's talk about our opponent last week. Ohio, they beat West Virginia at home. So, we can maybe glean some things last week. We knew that Ohio was a good team. Coach Ciano says Ohio's a good team. We know Ohio's a good team. But until you see it in action where they take down West Virginia, a team at a higher conference level, you don't really believe it completely. So they are a good team. Now, let's be clear, right? Rich Rod is back at West Virginia. West Virginia is in rebuilding mode. There's no indication that West Virginia is some powerhouse major team now, right? I mean, they're not an SEC team. They're not a Big Ten team. They're still in a major conference. But, it still means something. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Another thing to pay attention to is that Parker Navarro had 3 interceptions against West Virginia, only 1 touchdown. So their secondary, despite how good Parker is, their secondary was still able to capitalize on some mistakes that he made and some forced throws in the film that I saw. And so there's still some concerns that we weren't able to do much of any of that against him on defense last week. That being said, he still rushed for a respectable, I think it was over 80 yards. I think he was averaging over 4 yards a carry against West Virginia. He still threw for a lot of yards, and I think he was 20-something of low 30-something. So decent completion percentage. So it wasn't like he had a bad game against West Virginia, and they do win. But just a little caveat is those interceptions. 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions for him. West Virginia's defense did some things that we didn't do. That being said, let's move on to our game. Miami of Ohio, another respectable MAC team, comes into Piscataway. And can I just say that DeQuan Finn is a really shifty and really fast player. On Bo Masco's interception, Finn is the guy who caught him. It was like he was a safety. His angle was beautiful. You could see he was probably going to catch him from all the way back where the pick happened. And he chases him down and takes him down. And so he was the leading rusher for Miami of Ohio, carried the ball 11 times for 85 yards. He averaged 7.7 yards a carry. Passing the ball, not as efficient, 14 of 22, no touchdowns, 1 interception. But his shiftiness, this is the second quarterback we've seen now in the first 2 weeks who's shifty and tough to get down. Now, when we talk, let's talk about the defense first, right? Because that's what everybody's thinking about. That's what's on everybody's mind. You hear the train horn here in Newark, but I can report the train horn was a little less prominent at the game yesterday. So it was a better experience when it wasn't going off every third down. We let the natural third down happen, which I thought was good with the crowd noise. And I apologize for my sniffly nature here, being outside in the rain and everything, and it's just been a little bit of a crazy experience trying to get my bearings here. And that's why I wait till the morning to do these post games sometimes. So I'm in a different frame of mind. But Finn was hard to get down. And so once again, until the very end of the game, Rutgers is unable to actually get a sack. Now, the end of the game, we do get home. But for most of that game, we get into the backfield. We get anywhere near him. He flies out of the backfield. Sometimes he turned it into positive plays. We continue to lack closing ability along the defensive line. And that is exacerbates, I should say, the problems that we have in the secondary, which in my opinion now are really glaring. And this is especially true of the safety play, right? Jet Elad gets beat bad on a play, and you have Moses Walker trailing and chasing the guy down the middle of the field. Moses Walker is somebody else who I think has struggled a bit from the linebacker position. And then, Kaj Sanders, who I had named as maybe one of my breakout players, I thought he had a playmaking ability. There were a couple plays where, I don't know if he's biting on the run fake and then he loses a step because of that, or if he's nicked up, or if he's just not looking as fast out there. I think it's probably the initial point I made. I think he's biting on fakes, he's jumping, he's not making the right reads, and therefore he's getting burned a couple times. And there was one play in particular where they didn't convert the completion. But had they done it, it would have been another Miami of Ohio touchdown where he was just way behind the receiver and just couldn't do anything. And they were able to take the top off the defense a few times. And I know that at the end of the game, and Greg said this in his post-game presser, that the defense did step up and make stops later in the game when they needed to, especially in that fourth quarter where we put the game away. Two things about that. Number one, you're going to wear down a MAC team no matter how good they are when you're a Big Ten team. If you're not doing that, you're really in trouble. So there's something to be said for wearing a team down in the fourth quarter. I think that's part of the reason the sacks started coming. I think that's part of the reason we were able to just go down and score 2 more times and seal the game. And that's part of the reason that they got stops late in the game. I'm not giving all the credit to just wearing a team down, but I think you have to figure that in. I think another glaring issue that we're seeing with Rutgers going back to last year is whether we recover in the fourth quarter or not, we don't come out of the half looking very sharp. Our third quarters have not been good, and it's becoming a real trend now, and it's on both sides of the ball. So as good as the offense has played, they struggle, and they are kind of anemic coming out of the half, and it's becoming a trend now. And so there's nothing different about the third quarter this time. The only difference is that in the first half, Miami of Ohio was scoring pretty well, and it was a close game. But in the third quarter, once again, we're kind of anemic, and our defense doesn't look great. But this safety play, this pass defense is really scaring me because when you don't have a rush up front, in Jabome, I haven't seen any glaring deficiencies or anything that made me call out his name like he's missing something, but he's been quiet. And I forget who said it. It could have been Alec or Anderson, one of these guys. they said, it's been quiet from him, right? So he's not necessarily being incredibly disruptive or making game-changing plays. He's not screwing up, but your linebacker core is shaky. Your secondary is out there, and Elad, who we were told had a potential future in the NFL. We went out and got him. We paid for him. We procured his services, and we're excited about it. We went through the court situation. We thought we needed him there. I mean, he's not been great, nor has Sanders. The interception, and Giano shouted this out in the post game too. The interception was on play calling, and I give Rob Smith credit for that. Right, Finn had been absolutely owning us for a while, and so we played the trap coverage there. You send the safety out to get up on the wide receiver, and you have Mascow just sitting there spying the quarterback, watching his eyes, reading him to either jump on him if he breaks or to jump a route if you can, because he's not seeing you there while the safety's chasing him down. And that exactly is what happened. Bo jumps the route, grabs the ball, and that was a big game-changing pivotal play that was really necessary, and that was play calling. So if we're going to fix this defense or at least make it respectable, I think there's got to be some level of introspection that goes on in the meeting rooms this week. Norfolk State can be a get-right game, but Iowa comes right up after that. And if you're looking to go bowling this year and you're looking to take advantage of how good the offense is, you've really got to make this defense respectable. And look, this is 45-17, so it may seem like my reaction is unfounded or unwarranted, but go listen to the head coach. Go listen to any other commentary. And if you watch the game live, you know that the defense is still really concerning. We go out and get these defensive ends. We think maybe they'll help boost the pass rush. That hasn't come to fruition yet. I'm not completely ready to render a verdict on the pass rush because these two quarterbacks are both very shifty and elusive. So maybe when you get somebody who's not quite as elusive, some of these pressures turn into sacks. But there's still concerns even in run defense, and there's other things that, are really becoming concerning on the defensive side of the ball. What I was getting at was this week, for introspective purposes, right? Rob Smith, these guys need to get into the room and decide, from a personnel standpoint, who can we move around? Who can we shift around from a personnel standpoint to fix some of the problems and some of the liabilities we have on defense? And also from an X's and O's standpoint, brilliant call, putting Bo in position to jump that route and get that takeaway. What are other things we can do that disguise coverages or fool certain offenses or put our guys in the best positions to do what they do best and to succeed? There's got to be more of those discussions. I don't think the coaching staff is unaware. Schiano said it's a work in progress after the game. He said, his beliefs in general would not be valid if practice didn't improve performance vastly. So he knows that practice has to continue. And some of these guys are newcomers to the program, newcomers at this level. Some of them are just younger players. And he's got to keep developing and getting reps with these guys to improve play. But I think defense clearly is an issue. And speaking of taking advantage of this offense this year, that's the segue into another really just stellar performance by Ethan Kaliakmanis. 26 of 36, 259 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. This is not, an FCS game. These are two MAC teams that are the best teams in the MAC conference. And Miami of Ohio arguably has a better defense than Ohio does. And look, you're watching from the sidelines where I was, and there's a size difference with KJ Duff and Ian Strong and the corners they had out there. And they're giving almost like 10-yard cushions. There were times where these guys are playing soft coverage, giving 10-yard cushions, and we're just taking 12 yards. By the time you get out there and take a route, if we want it, it's there. And I think it was Mike on the TKR postgame who said, Mike and Rich, just like, we're taking what we can get on the soft coverage. They're content to give us these chunks of yardage almost every play. And we could take a slant, one of them said too. We could take a slant pretty much anytime we want. And they're so concerned about the deep ball that they're willing to do that. And when you get in a position where your offense is scaring defenses to the point that they're so afraid of you taking off the top that they'll give you a cushion, you're in a really good place. Now, the good news about that is even though there was such a size difference in this game, I don't think that changes a ton, even going into Big Ten play all the time, right? I mean, these receivers have an athletic advantage and a size advantage. Even in the Big Ten, these are big, talented guys, right? And you get DT Sheffield involved later in the game. I thought, he should have been involved maybe a little bit earlier, but you get him involved. He gets his touchdown. He eats. Ian Strong, 2 touchdowns. KJ Duff, a touchdown. Strong, 116 yards, receiving. These guys, he was averaging 12.9 a reception. Duff averaging 11.8 a reception. Fletcher got involved, 2 receptions, averaging 7 a reception. Weber got involved, caught 2 balls. Raymond got involved, caught 2 balls, which is good to see. You want to see more of the running backs get involved in the passing game. I think there are wrinkles that have yet to be seen. Even Weber, last week it was a lot of blocking, even when he was coming in and there was different looks they're given to the defense. He was mostly blocking. This week there's certain looks and then he's getting a reception. So I think there's going to be a continued evolution of this offense. Rushing, Raymond, 13 carries for 82 yards. Campbell, 10 carries for 45 yards. Benjamin had 6 carries for 17, so he's getting involved too. Athan's in there in the rushing stat line, and Athan had 12 carries for 18 yards. Here's the thing. Designed runs keep defenses off balance. Athan's more than capable of keeping the ball and running. There was actually 1 or 2 reads where I thought maybe he should have tucked it himself and run. Maybe he should have actually given the ball to the running back. So some of that read, he's good at it and he's executed it very well. Sometimes I think it can still be further perfected and he'll look at that in the film room. But Athan, you've got to slide, and if you're not going to slide, you've got to go down earlier, man. There were a few plays where he's taken hits, and one play he took a hard hit, and he went down, and he kind of looked a little shaky getting up. And the very next play, I think it was a designed run, and then there was a play where Strong got off his block. And, the guy was coming at him, and he did get down a little early. And I thought that was really important because, bro, design runs once in a while are good. Scrambling when you need to. Athan has shown he's got that heart. He can scramble. He can make things happen if he needs to. You need it sometimes, but you got to keep it in the reserve for when it's absolutely necessary because you can't keep taking these hits. And even if you do it, slide. Slide, man. I don't need to see you get hurt. There were some scary moments there, in my opinion, with Athan. So, look, this offense is cranking on all cylinders as of right now. They have more guys that can get involved. Shiano even talked about Ben Black. I think Ben Black's a guy with a lot of – he's one of my guys preseason that I thought we'd see emerge a little bit more this year. Greg referenced it in the post game because I think we all know that he's another weapon. We have a lot of weapons on the offensive side of the ball. We should be getting them more and more involved just to throw defenses off and just to keep guys fresh. But the talent at the skill positions is really good. The line has held up pretty well. Dante Chin, this was probably the most, other than the safety play and some of the defensive woes, which are evident, this might be one of the most concerning things to come out of this game. Dante Chin, might have been Weber. I think Aaron Brightman told me who was looking, it was Weber who hit him in the back of the leg. But he gets hit in the back of the leg, goes down. He was in a lot of pain. It seemed like it was his knee. He does that classic. We've all become accustomed to it as football fans now, right? He does that classic, limp off the field thing. And with help, I see him go into the medical tent. He stays in the tent for I didn't see him come out. And then I think he's on a cart to end the game. I think I heard that. I didn't see that. And so, look, it's not like we didn't have Needham, who was a starter last year, who was competing till the end for the job. But now your depth is going to start to get tested. If Dante Chin is out for an extended period of time, and Greg even said, when he's somebody who's always playing things close to the vest, when he's coming out and he's saying, guys, at the post game, guys, I'm worried about Dante. I'm worried about Dante Chin. That's never a good sign. And it didn't look good from where I was sitting. I don't have any inside information. Obviously, when the news comes out, you know how this organization's program likes to release news on injuries. We probably won't know anything definitive unless it's very definitive. And we probably won't know until that time, maybe even close to the game. But you may have depth enough to survive it now, but now you're tapping into your depth, so you can only absorb so much more. And even so, losing a starter, if that's the case, along that line is difficult. There were times early in the run game where I didn't think we were excellent up front. Now, this defense is better than last week's, and these guys are pretty big, looking on the field. They weren't tiny, even for a MAC team. So, take that with a grain of salt. But, I thought there were some, later in the game, the running game with Campbell especially. I mean, it really started to churn out yards and do its job when you needed to seal the game. And you want to see that, right? But there were some issues early on. So, I'm curious when it goes up against Iowa that, one of these notorious trench teams that we've long struggled against since we've gotten into the Big Ten. How are we going to go helmet for helmet on these guys? And what do we have up our sleeve to be the equalizer if we're struggling? Now, we're going to have to run the ball because we're going to have to keep the ball out of the hands of opposing offenses as much as we can because our defense has struggled so much. So as much as the passing game is looking like, and we expected it to be the engine of this offense, and it's looking great so far with Athan and these receivers, we're going to need a really, really good running game to control time of possession, to keep our defense off the field, to give them, a breather. And I'm not saying we've rushed well so far, but I'm just saying, there were some issues there, and you lose alignment potentially. This line's going to have to continue to show that it's up to the challenge. And so that'll be something to keep an eye on and watch too. Some team stats. Total yards, Rutgers 421, and it was an awesome performance. But you see how efficient and potent Rutgers offense was with 421 yards. And then you look across the field and Miami of Ohio had 368 yards. So it's like, how proficient were they? It's looking at our defense now, to be fair, a lot of those yards came on a couple, some big plays, but nonetheless, yards are yards, right? Like whether they come in increments or they come in big plays, yes, it changes the complexion of the game. It changes the analysis. But nonetheless, this team still racked up some yards on us. And so it's concerning. Passing yards, 251 for them, 259 for us, 162 rushing yards for us, 117 for them. Again, the quarterback had a lot to do with that. Really, really nice, shifty player with his legs. Still, it's not a good stat. Yards per play, they averaged 8.4. We averaged 5.5, respectable, but they were averaging 8.4. Again, they ran a lot less plays. They had the ball a lot less, which is what you want if you're Rutgers. And so their average is going to be higher. But nonetheless, still a higher average. 31 first downs for Rutgers, just really efficient on that offense. And again, they were worried about us taking the top off, and we were able to get down the field and put these drives together, which was great. Only 13 for them. 7 of 10 on third down, 0 of 1 for fourth down. I don't know what happened on that weird timing play. It was. I don't know if the play clock had started before it was supposed to, or was ahead of the game. I don't know what was going on. Weird situation. We didn't convert, but that's where I'm saying, you don't convert on that fourth, and the game could go any which way, especially with that quarterback. But the defense did step up to the extent it had to in the fourth quarter, and the offense did as well, and we put the game away. Got to clean up those third quarters. Only 2 penalties for 14 yards for Rutgers, 10 penalties for 94 yards for Miami of Ohio. they were pretty pissed off. There was a unsportsmanlike on the head coach, and he was livid. I think it was at a maybe a pick call, offensive pass interference pick call. And look, I understand it. To be honest with you, um, the last couple games, like Chuck Martin he had the sweater vest on, and he was mad. And after the post game, you listen to him, and he had some good points, to be honest with you. And he was level headed, but he was livid in that game a few times. And I Rutgers has not been penalized, and that's good. That's a sign of discipline and playing, sound football. But at the same time, being at 2 games now, I thought Rutgers has had good days with the officials for the most part. And I bet you that the Bobcats and, Miami of Ohio would tell you that they didn't love the way that the game was called. If we had that offensive play called back, we would have been so livid. Look, there were a lot of pass interferences that some were called on their guys, some were let go, and that's what happens sometimes. You have a receiver that's just massive that the corner just can't deal with, and he's going to get a little handsy. Sometimes they're not going to flag everything. But I'm just saying, I like the penalty stat line, but let's see what happens. We know how these games sometimes get called, especially on the road against perennial Big Ten teams and the traditional powers. So even if it's a legit penalty line right now, just keep an eye on it, because if it isn't the same against some of these Big Ten teams on the road, it can change the complexion of a game. So just keep your eye on that. I suspect we're going to have some game. Now, I hope we don't. I hope this team is just really fundamentally sound, really disciplined, and we're just in for a year of very low penalties. But if there's a game or two where the penalties aren't looking like they did the last 2 weeks, it could change things a little, and keep an eye on that is all I'm saying. We know that that's happened to us before in Big Ten play. Time of possession, 39 minutes, 6 seconds for Rutgers, 20 minutes, 54 seconds for Miami. And so, the Red Hawks didn't have the ball really enough to make a difference, and that was by design. So, you hope that that trend continues in terms of possession and keeping the defense off the field. But it's going to probably be an ongoing issue, quite frankly, with this defense. I don't think this defense is ever going to be even average. It just doesn't seem like it's going to be. I think there are personnel considerations that are holding it back. I think there are maybe some coaching and system issues. What you can do is you can improve personnel by just repetition, more practice, more film review, more experience on the field, because these guys are young, these guys are new. You can also improve it by maybe putting different guys in different situations. Maybe looking at some other guys that you weren't looking at who maybe could make a difference in some ways, and giving them some time, to replace some other guys that are struggling. The cornerback play was better. The cornerback play was better this week, I thought, but the safety play left a lot to be desired. The other way you can do it is schematically, like that call on the interception. I mean, that was a chess move coordinator type interception. Players got to execute, but he was in great position. You got to do more schematically from a play caller standpoint to put the defense in a good position. And if you can do that, you can get the defense at least to a level where it's not a liability that's going to cost you more than a couple games. Because I think no matter how you slice it, looking at it right now, it's probably going to cost us a few games. Period. It's going to cost us a few games this year. And it's a shame, because imagine if we'd had the defense like we had 2 years ago and this offense. I mean, it's frustrating to some extent. I mean, it's not to some extent, it's frustrating, period, that we've got this type of offense, which we haven't seen in, I don't even remember. And the defense is going to struggle. There's no way out of it. It's going to struggle. There's no secret weapon to pull out. Perhaps somebody emerges. One of the kids on the field now really comes into his own because they're young. Or perhaps there's somebody on the bench who comes in and develops and comes in like a storm and changes that. But for now, they're going to struggle. And you've got to just find ways to minimize the damage. I think one of the ways is maybe have an emphasis on not giving up big plays. The liability there then is you might shift that time of possession issue. And if you're not going to stop them anyway, then maybe it's not the best thing to do. At the same time, there's more opportunities for takeaways, more opportunities for mistakes, on the other team if they've got to drive down the field more methodically. I don't know what the answer is, but I think if we're sitting here and we're savvy fans, despite the score, we know that there's some concerns on the defensive side of the ball, and we look at the schedule and we hope that the offense can make things happen and get us to where we want to go this year. So, fun game with the rain and the craziness, kind of a stressful game in some ways early on with the defensive woes. You're like, come on, you're not feeling great. But nonetheless, Rutgers takes care of business against two of probably the best MAC teams. West Virginia couldn't do that. Other teams out there getting upset. Clemson not having a great year so far. Florida, we saw what happened to them. So, it's you still got to take care of business. And we took care of business decisively this week. We didn't take care of it decisively last week, but then that team goes out and beats West Virginia. So, we took care of business. And that's what these games are for. These are tougher tests than some other out-of-conference games we've had in the past. These are tougher tests than probably what we're going to see next week. And so you need to learn from that. You need to hope that kind of getting hit in the face a little bit gets a fire under the entire program's butt, that they've got to go out and improve before Big Ten play. And that's all you can take from it. And you got to enjoy the week with a victory. And it's always nice to have a victory Saturday. It's always nice when I'm sitting here on a Sunday morning talking to you very calmly, analytically about what's going on, as opposed to being huddled in my car, ranting, furious ranting in the parking lot before I leave the game because we had a mind-bending loss. So that's always a positive you should take. Guys, remember, this show is available as a podcast on every major podcasting platform. Just search Night Watch Larry K anywhere you get your podcasts, on Google, whatever. It's available as an audio podcast. If you're listening on audio, this is on YouTube. Just head over to YouTube, type in Larry K Night Watch, click the like, the subscribe button, and remember, there's some exclusive stuff. I'm going to start up a written column once I have a critical mass here weekly for members, official sponsors of Night Watch. So click that join button and become a member. And I will this week, I'll definitely have an Iowa week game preview. I will work on that. I will try to also sit down this week and have a Norfolk State game preview. I heard from some people at the game, hey, why didn't you have a game preview, man? I was looking forward to it. Well, we didn't have it yet. I'm going to get back to those game previews as well. Keep an eye out for the RU review I do with Steve Teichner on, it's usually every Wednesday, and it comes out Thursday morning. And make sure you're tuning into the College Huddle. I haven't mentioned it in a while, but the College Huddle, I am a member of that network. My site's up and listed on collegehuddle.com. There's a lot of great content from all over the country and all different schools on the College Huddle. So check that out as well. And until I talk to you, enjoy the rest of your weekend on this rainy Sunday and enjoy your week. It's always nice to start out 2-0 and more on the horizon. So we'll see what the season has in store for us. Larry K out.
I know you heard me on the radio flexing. She loved the sound of my voice, it's the best thing. Daydreaming of the jazz all day. Pick up the phone late night with Larry K. I know you heard me on the radio flexing. She loved the sound of my voice, it's the best thing. Daydreaming of the Jazz all day.